Hi, everybody, and welcome to Matrix Live, Season 10, Episode 7, I believe. I'm afraid that you are stuck with me, Matthew, Project Lead, this week, as we don't have anybody else to do a Matrix Live. I thought that I would wear probably the most geeky Christmas jumper known to man. Just stand up so you can appreciate the full horror of this amazing Balrog You Shall Not Pass Christmas jumper, in the vague hope that some cultures outside the UK also get involved in very ugly Christmas time celebratory wear. But just wanted to show it off, really. I guess if I were organised, this would be a end of year wrap up retrospective. But frankly, I'm not that organised enough, and I haven't written the blog post yet that I try to do every year to give an update of all things happening in Matrix. So instead, I'll just talk about some of the stuff which has been going on this week and last week, which I'm particularly excited about. And there's honestly a lot of positive stuff happening at the moment. I have a glimmer of hope and excitement for the future. We had the pretty mind-blowing news of US Senators Ron Wyden and Eric Schmidt publishing a bipartisan letter to the Department of Defense in the US last week, demanding that the DoD invests in encrypted and open interoperable communication systems like Matrix, mentioning Matrix by name, and publishing a whole bunch of interesting information about the US Navy's Matrix deployments, rather than investing in proprietary, closed, and commercial expensive solutions with lots of vendor lock, as they might otherwise be doing. And I hasten to add, this is not due to any lobbying on behalf of Matrix or indeed on behalf of Element, who provides the US Navy deployments. Instead, it is what the marketing people call organic, where I think particularly Senator Wyden's office has been tracking Matrix for a while, and is just trying to basically get the US to the same point that France and Germany are headed in terms of using Matrix as a national secure communication layer with full digital sovereignty, rather than being vendor locked into Teams or Slack or whatever other system. So, honestly, that's a bit of a step change. And in the context of the Salt Typhoon hacks, where it turns out that the lawful intercept systems of the US public phone network, but probably the whole public telephone network, turn out to have been compromised by bad actors, particularly targeting politicians and senators, you can see why this is a really concrete concern that they're very interested in fixing right now. And I know there was an amazing article that Forbes put out about how the FBI are now recommending that US citizens communicate via end-to-end encrypted communication systems, given that the PSTN, the phone network, is compromised. Which is insane. It's incredible. Like, at the same time, we've got the UK trying to legislate against end-to-end encryption and trying to mandate the ability to put surveillance backdoors into encrypted apps in the name of online safety. And then at the same time, we see precisely the opposite happening in the US, with the FBI acknowledging that backdoors get compromised and urging everybody to shift to encrypted systems. We live in a very strange timeline. And then to capital, on Thursday last week, there was the chat control debate, which was again blocked at the last minute via a coalition of, I think, Sweden, Poland, and Germany. But the Hungarian presidency keeps bringing back chat control again to propose surveillance backdoors in encrypted chat apps across Europe. And so hopefully this whole misadventure in the US will go and push people towards realizing that encryption is a good thing and that backdoors get abused by the bad guys. But let's see. So that's exciting. What else is going on? Lots and lots and lots of fun stuff happening with Rust SDK and also the Element X implementations on top of Rust SDK, where the release back in September at the Matrix conference was a solid 1.0, But there was a lot of fun stuff that didn't make it in time, and it is so nice seeing all the fun stuff landing now. So in the last couple of weeks, particularly those tracking the nightly test flight builds, will have been seeing things like local echo for media uploads in Element X and Rust SDK. So now when you send an image, it, rather than disappearing for a few seconds and then reappearing once the thing has uploaded, instead it appears to send instantly. In practice, that's because we haven't put the progress bar on yet, but at least you get a local echo going and showing how, well, giving the impression that you've instantly sent your content, and it gets queued up nicely and resent if you lose connectivity and all that jazz. So that is such a big quality of life improvement, and I'll get into huge trouble for this because it's not ready yet, and it's hidden behind a developer flag. And I know that the team want to announce it properly when it is ready, but we have things like media browsing coming too, which is, I think, the first instance of Element X features going far beyond anything that we ever had in the legacy apps. So not only do we pretty much have parity if you ignore threads and spaces, but we're now going forwards into the unknown. Let me see if I can find something appropriate to demonstrate this with. Searching for the word matrix on my matrix account was not a sensible thing to do. Let me search for a particular room, which was in fact the first ever room in Matrix, which we set up for private chat in the team who created Matrix, and still exists today, mainly as a place to share photos. And so it looks like that. And if I go down and hit the media and files button here, then ba-ding, you get a whole bunch of thumbnails pop up. I'll go and pick one that I've posted, which is a beautiful photo. Oh, look how dirty my screens are, of Tone Green Church here in Chiswick, tech capital of the world. So that may not seem like a big deal. Like WhatsApp and Signal and Threema and iMessage and everybody have indexes of media messages. But you may have noticed that it launched instantly because it is using another feature of Rust SDK, which is the long-awaited persistent event cache, which also is not ready yet, so you haven't seen this yet. But it's something that the Rust team have been working on literally all year, which is the missing final ingredient to make the Rust SDK amazing, where all of the timeline data gets cached in SQLite using some very fancy, efficient data structures and reactive sort of model, such that the app goes and populates up its timeline and its media history from the local SQLite database. So you get offline support, you get instant loading of your media timeline, even if you're in an encrypted room and you had to go back and spider loads of old messages to find out which ones are the images, because it can't find out on the server, because the server doesn't know which messages have got images in them. Instead, it's actually taking us through at last to this much more mainstream style UI. So that's exciting, but you haven't seen it yet because it's not ready. What else? We've got captions now, slightly controversial because it turns out the spec core team screwed up the captions MSC and we failed to specify backwards compatibility. So we have captions, but you better be on a recent Matrix client if you want the other guide to be able to read them. This may yet get fixed, but for now we're just putting a warning on it saying, warning, don't rely on captions, which sucks, but it's better than no captions at all. We have, what else do we have? There's one other big new thing happening in Rust SDK. Totally blanking on it. But either way, you get the idea that the really fun features are landing post-launch. Talking of which, Element Cool has also been landing some really fun stuff. The latest nightly builds have hand raise and emoji reactions. I think this was originally contributed actually by Milton Norduck. I really hope that's right. Apologies if it wasn't. But we finally merged the PR and extended it a bunch. We've also got join and leave noises in latest nightly, which is bizarrely transformational in terms of usability, and I think there's even background blurring hanging around now as an option on the nightly builds too, or at least on a branch which will be merged shortly. So really fun to see Element Cool also getting all of the sort of fast follow post-launch nice features landing as well. And indeed, I had one of my first proper embedded in a chat room Element Cool experiences earlier today, where you went and basically have a room with people who know nothing about Element Cool, who just happen to be using a latest Element desktop and Element X, and somebody wanted to start chatting with voice and video. So they did not send a call link around on a calendar invite by email. Instead, they just hit the video button like it's meant to be. Everybody's cool devices got a nice pop-up saying, hey, go and jump on this, and everybody popped in. And it turned out it was even using the nightly build of Element Cool, so we got the join noises, and it felt very, very futuristic with proper native Matrix RTC here at last. What else? Another fun thing this week is if I take off my my Matrix flag and I temporarily put on a Element CEO t-shirt, which you'll have to believe I'm wearing underneath this monstrosity. We went and launched Synapse Pro on the Element side. So this is very large-scale Synapse hosting, built for things like the German healthcare market, where they need to have servers that can host 10 million or 20 million users. So way bigger than anything else out there. And the costs with the current Synapse codebase just get crazy at that scale. So what we've done at Element is to go and add a few new proprietary components, specifically for scaling these large deployments, and called it Synapse Pro. This is also, frankly, to try to ensure that we get funded in order to keep working on Synapse and Matrix, and to go and route the money generated by Synapse Pro into open source Synapse development. And for instance, we will be keeping the schema for the database the same between Synapse and Synapse Pro. At least that's the plan. It may change, but the intention at least is to make sure that any database performance improvements, for instance, that come out of Synapse Pro work also benefit Synapse FOSS. And obviously all the features and the security work particularly will go in Synapse, normal open source Synapse by default. So this is not a evil proprietary fork maneuver, at least from my perspective. It reminds me, and it's kind of modeled after what MySQL did back in the day. If you're as old as I am, you might remember that MySQL was once not owned by Sun and Oracle, and they had a product called MySQL Enterprise, which was a proprietary flavor that had crazy clustering built for banks who needed high availability and a support contract. And that really is what Synapse Pro is too, a flavor that has HA, it has effectively vHosting, or at least multi-tenant capability, as well as these more efficient Synapse workers in order to scale better at high scale by basically sharing resources between the various different virtual servers in a given deployment. I think the plan is for Will, who's the engineering manager for Synapse and is also looking after Synapse Pro, to do a Matrix Live in a few weeks to talk about this. So I will not steal his thunder anymore, but frankly, it gives me some reassurance in terms of growing up that this thing might be a way to fund more core Matrix dev and discourage the problem that we have of folks often saying, hey, I'm a government and I want to run a massive Matrix server, but open source is amazing because we don't have to pay anybody anything, therefore we're not going to contribute to any upstream funding or development costs at all. Whereas with Synapse Pro, there is a very concrete reason why they might actually want to contribute to the upstream development costs in order to try to keep the show on the road. And then finally, there's a lot of work happening on state resolution at the moment. So we've managed to carve out some time to work on state resets and some of the more interesting state resolution failures that have turned up over the last couple of years. We've gone and dusted off my old TARDIS, which is not a time and relative dimensions in space time-traveling machine. It is instead a temporally agnostic room DAG inspection service that I wrote about 4 years ago, and it basically visualizes DAGs and allows you to time travel debug them, so you step forwards and backwards in time to see what was happening on the DAG state of your room at a given point. So did this years ago. It was actually done for Dendrite to debug peer-to-peer work. Never went anywhere. But then Keegan picked it up a few weeks ago and has radically improved it. If you are a Matrix Federation Protocol geek and have not played yet with TARDIS, you have not lived. So go and Google for wherever we host TARDIS, I think on the Matrix HQ GitHub page. And by the way, it's all done as Matrix Foundation work, because this is very much for the greater good of the whole Matrix ecosystem rather than something being done as Element. And not to say that Element isn't also acting in the greater good, but this one is very explicitly done on behalf of everybody and is intended to plug into everybody's home servers, whether that is Synapses or Dendrites or Conduits or Conduits or Grapevines or indeed Synapse Pros. The whole idea is that you can use this thing to understand what weirdnesses are happening or not happening with your federation. And you basically load up scenarios of particular room DAGs, and you can resolve the state against a real implementation. At the moment, it's a very stubbed out version of Synapse that it uses to perform state res v2 and see what the result is. It should also be able to plug into real rooms, although I don't think that's turned on at the moment. And it even features a brand new DAG visualization algorithm that I wrote in a moment of missing writing software, because it turns out that writing room DAG visualization algorithms is a lot more fun than trying to run an open source software company. Anyway, play with TARDIS, it's fun. There's going to be a lot of work coming out of it over the coming weeks, so watch this space. I think that's all I've got on my mind right now. I hope that was interesting. Sorry for the screaming noises in the background. And I hope you have a wonderful weekend. And I wonder if I'll get permission to do another one of these before Christmas. If not, have a wonderful end of your year too. And I guess I will write up one of the yearly retrospectives, hopefully not on Christmas Eve, to recount even where things have got to in a bit more detail, because it's not been a disastrous year. It's better than last year, or the previous year, that's for sure, but not perfect either. But at least everything feels like right now it's going in the right direction. So have a great time. Thanks for flying Matrix. Bye.